Okay, welcome to this particular episode of the iClyck training series, and today we're just going to have a quick look at shooting outdoors. It's pretty straightforward, but there's a few things to watch out for. First and foremost, as you can see here in our rather nondescript park here at Wynnum, is that I've chosen the late afternoon to display something quite obvious, and that's we've set up our tripod and our iClyck and our iPhone, but you can see that the long hours of the day and the long shadows are casting quite an ugly stench of tripodianness throughout the photo. So one thing to consider when you're shooting this, and if you're shooting in the middle of the day, this is not so much an issue because your shadows are going to be downways, but of a late afternoon or early morning, if you are shooting, then you're probably going to do something like moving the actual camera and the iPod stand into a shadow. And so you can see, as we've done there, is that simple little action has actually got rid of a bunch of shadow, including the shadow that's now cast and hiding this tripod and this video camera that we're operating with. So that's first and foremost one thing to worry about. So now that's out of the way, the other thing we need to think about is the exposure lock. Remembering that there's only really the one setting that we ever work with when we're using the iPhone, and I'm wondering if I need to put that up a bit. Probably do, eh? I'll flip that over as well so I can see what I'm doing. Here we go. Hello. Okay, so as I said, there's only really the one setting that Photosynth, the application of choice here, that is going to use with us, is going to allow us to use, is actually this one under settings here, and just bringing that up into the camera there. Probably can't see it, but exposure lock on and off is, of course, under that cogwheel setting. And what we're actually going to do is for first up, we're going to set it off. And just remember what that's going to do is that's actually going to take our photo and in multiple exposures. So as it goes around, and if it thinks, oh, I need to exchange the exposure to get more depth of field or more richness out of this particular photo, we'll take a different exposure. And just remember that when we actually do go to stitch this photo together, or Photosynth goes away to do what it does, it might actually give us a little bit of tiling or a little bit of a distinct ugliness if we don't do it. Now, the simple thing to do here is if you're not quite sure, take two photos. Take two different photos. So one with exposure lock off and one with exposure lock on. And that's a simple way to cover yourself, so you don't have to come back to site. Take the two photos. As we know, it takes us about 3 or 4 minutes to shoot any particular photo. So given the fastness and the speed with which we're doing this, taking two photos is that obvious safety factor. Now, the other thing we're going to do, and I'm using this particular thing here today, a lovely religious motif, but we just pretend, for instance, that this is actually a real estate sign. This is something specific for real estate shoots, and you guys out there that are in the property marketing business. And what we're actually going to do is actually lay this, pretending this is a real estate for sale sign with your name and your contact detail on it. We're actually going to lay that right at the base of the shot there. So I'll just show you where we've put it. I've experimented quite successfully with that, and that, a nice bright real estate photo is a great way to, or real estate sign is a great way to include, in a very simple way, your shingle, so to speak, including your name and your phone number. So do that. And so that's pretty much the most important thing. So just put that down in the base of the photo, and you'll find that works out really well. Now, there's two other things that we're going to do before we start shooting. And that's another thing we're going to do here, and we're just going to grab a leaf or a bit of bark in this occasion, something probably hopefully doesn't blow away, but we're just going to place that right under the centre of the camera there, and under the centre of the tripod, so we can see, and we've got a base point. Now, that's going to be pretty important later on. If we do take the full spherical photo, and we're actually going to pick up the tripod, lift it back and take a photo down to actually make a full sphere, what that's actually going to do is enable us to locate ourselves and know exactly where we're operating. So working at the height of the tripod, looking straight down. Okay, and I'll show you that in a second. And the final thing I really want to impress upon you, and look, it's more the tourist type snap is where you're going to run into strife with this, is that the tourist type snap in some sort of location, be it a bar scene, or the waterfront of the Netherlands, or some church in Germany, as recent experiences have shown me, is that with lots of people milling around, you've got to really be careful to not put half people in it, because it's going to take something away from your photo. If there's like half a bloke over here and in the bottom of some child down here, it's surreal and it doesn't look right. So to avoid that, and it's a simple thing to do, and just to describe it now, obviously not necessary here, we've got this nondescript park all to ourselves, but we shoot the shot in sections. So as opposed to shooting all around in one go, and then going around up here and then around up the top, and same down and lower, what we're actually going to do is we're going to shoot in sections. And you've got to be a little bit careful with this, obviously, but if you get a spot, say in a church or cathedral type situation that you're shooting, where there's lots of people milling past, you might get a spot where you spot a gap in the crowd walking past, the prams, the people, the photos, the cameras, the Nikons, all those sorts of things. You're going to get a gap, and you see them cross over, see that window open up, and use that opportunity to go upwards, to shoot the actual shot up and down. So you're going to go click, 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 using your actual iClyck mount to go up and down in one section of the photo, and grab that vertical slice while you can, spin around, look for another opportunity, and just basically build your tiling up as you go around the scene, and you'll still get a very good result to that. It's a little bit of trickery, but with a bit of practice you'll find that it works quite effectively for you. So anyway, I won't hold you up. That's basically what we're going to do. I'm going to get on and start photographing here, and I'll post the actual result of this particular photo and connect it with this thing, probably even including the two. But just to recap those couple of things, choice of spot. If it's during in the afternoon and you're out in the sun, then try and choose a shadow spot just to masquerade your tripod. Secondly, we're going to probably take two shots. Probably take one with exposure on and one with exposure off, so that we've got the opportunity to go back later and choose the one that comes out better. Remembering exposure lock will sometimes, exposure lock off will sometimes give you a bit of tiling and a bit of carpeting in your shot, which is unattractive, but then the exposure lock on might leave parts of your photo really, really dark. So actually, one other tip there with exposure lock on is make sure that the most important part of your photo, if you're using exposure lock on, this goes for indoors or outdoors, focus your camera and your iPhone towards and take the first frame towards the most important part of your photo when you've got exposure lock on. So that means that everything is going to be defined exposure-wise based upon that most important part, and you're going to make sure that that whatever it might be, the fountain or the seat or the bar section or the kitchen section of your indoors real estate shop is shot in such a way that's going to capture that in the best way, and the best just gets to fit in as best it can. So important tip there with exposure lock on. We've also, for real estate here on the ground here, you might be able to see it, but of course remembering we've put down your placard or your for sale sign with your details, your contact, as a really simple non-Photoshop way to include your contact details in every photo. And what else have we got? Then get on with the job, marking out a spot and showing us. And I'll switch the camera back onto record to show us this last down action here. But those are basically the functions, and so I'll come back to you in a sec. It's going to be pretty straightforward. What we're going to do here is I'll just show you just one other tip I just remembered as I was just going around doing this panoramic, is as our action goes around, you'll see that the dot in the middle of the screen is coming up to where it wants to make the next frame. As you're doing that, really important thing to remember is to slow down. So your action ends up being a bit of a whip type thing like this. So as you're going around, you can get a bit of speed going so you can shoot these quickly, but you can move around quickly towards, but as you get to that next dot, where the dot's going to reach the dotted line and it's going to automatically take the next photo, then just remember to actually slow down. And that gives, as you come into the next spot, the camera's not going to blur that part of the photo. I've had a little bit of trouble with that. Okay, so, and just in final thing, what I'm just going to show you here is this action that I use to take the down shot. And just remembering is our camera height is around about heresies, and we're right over the top of our bit of bark. And actually, in this situation, which is nice, we've got some grass, which is going to actually blend together quite nicely. I've found that tile floors are actually one of the worst things, or paving is one of the worst things for where the software is unable to spin that piece of photo or that one particular photo around and fit it in. It's just doesn't really try that hard. But so on a grass, we expect a good result, marked out with a bit of bark here. And so that action, as we come up, and we're still in automatic, so we expect this camera is going to take the photo automatically. We lift it up and over the top, and we've got a height just about right. Bang, there it goes. Okay, so it's got that. So anyway, that's the end of this particular episode of the training series. I hope you get some great information out of this, and of course feedback is welcome, and I'll post this resulted shot on there so you can have a bit of a look at it. Thank you very much for watching.